Not too much trouble, Hugh. We'd like to get started on our meeting on time today.
Yes, sir. My apologies.
There's no problem. I know you kind of run the show, but this is my meeting now. I want to welcome everybody to our Lands Committee meeting. Robin Jr., would you please give us a roll call? Thank you.
Mr. Swab,
Here.
Mr. Keith.
Here.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Sessions,
Here.
Mr. Thompson, Mr. Wheeler,
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We have some public comments. I see that it's about the green property conservation easement. Did y'all want to wait until we discuss that topic, or would y'all like to go now? You gonna want to wait? Okay, no problem at all. We'll get to you. And Mr. Green, I was going to ask you, did you want to go first, or did you want to go after Mr. Diamond? Okay, I figured that's the way you wanted to roll, but I want to make sure. I want to give you that option. Ms. Porter, would you, your floor.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Lands Committee. We have a number of items for you to consider today for our afternoon Lands Committee meeting. The first item for your consideration is the ranking of the FY 26 land acquisition conservation projects. Pursuant to Florida Statute 373-139, the district may purchase property in fee and less than fee acquisitions for the purposes of flood protection, natural systems restoration, water supply sustainability, and water quality protection. These lands are acquired through a voluntary willing seller program. Earlier this year, the district opened its portal for project application, and we received 15 new project submittals. These were received and ranked alongside the existing 3 projects that y'all had approved from last fiscal year, for a total of 18 conservation land acquisition projects. Each project was evaluated against criteria established by Governing Board Directive 25-0002. And those water resource criteria are listed in your memorandum 1 through 6. The land acquisition and surplus team, which are made up of staff experts, use the data as outlined by the board to recommend projects for 3 different categories: funding, further development, or denial. The projects recommended for funding are those which will be sought in fiscal year 2025-26 in the order presented. Projects recommended for further development are those the district will pursue should additional funding come available or if other projects fall through in the order presented. And finally, projects recommended for denial are those that did not meet the district's water resource criteria listed above in a significant way or do not align with the district's conservation program. Pursuant to the governing board directive, these projects have been denied by the executive director. And I'll mention that those projects that were submitted and denied in accordance with the directive were largely active agricultural operations that are not consistent with the district's current mission for land acquisition. For FY 2026, 3 projects are recommended for funding and 2 are recommended for further development. The projects approved for funding or further development will be pursued in the order presented for detailed assessment subject to the available budget. So when we were talking about hosting this Lands Committee item, Mr. Chair, you had mentioned bringing forth projects based on the available budget, and the staff has sought to do so and is presenting projects to you that absent appraisals, that's key, absent appraisals that we could currently fund in this current fiscal year. So that is an important distinction because you would ask specifically for that.
Thank you.
In your materials, I won't go through these each one. We'll look at these items on a map, but the 3 projects for funding are the Ippolito project in Dixie County, just over 500 acres. These are all less than fee. That's an important distinction. So these are conservation easements, not fee projects. The next project recommended for funding is the Bascom Southern property in Dixie County. This is 52,000 acres. This less than fee purchase would be pursued through a legislative budget request made by the applicant or through a partial funding request with the Rural and Family Lands Partnership Program. So they are exploring multiple avenues for acquisition given the 52,000 acre size of that conservation easement. And thirdly, the Green Project located in Columbia County that you can see indicated on the map here is just over 450 acres. And this is a funding match request with the federal program Natural Resource Conservation Service funds. And I know we have at least 2 representatives from the project. The Green family and their representative is here, which I think you have the public comment card for. And then we have Rebecca Perry with the Conservation Fund here on behalf of Bascom Southern. And I'm not sure if we have anybody from Ippolito here, but they were made aware of the meeting. All right, with that, Mr. Chair, as y'all are reviewing the map here, just a few water resource value criteria I want to make note of as we look at these, and then we'll look at the individual maps of each property. There's a table in your materials that you can reference, but just for ease of viewing purposes, I will read these out. So the Ippolito property, like I said, just over 500 acres in Dixie County for a total of $1.28 million or $25,000 per acre is being presented to the district by the Florida Conservation Fund. Has about a half a mile of river frontage along the Swanee and is within the Manatee Springs buffer. Also contains acreage within the 10-year and 100-year floodplain and is within the Western Water Supply Planning Area as well as the Swanee VMAP. The Bascom Southern property is 52,000 acres, so quite a large piece of property. It is being presented to the district, as I mentioned, a legislative budget request made by the applicant or a 0.5 partnership funding request with Rural and Family Lands presented to the district by the Conservation Fund. It has quite a large amount of riverine surface waters, is located within the 100-year floodplain, within the Fanning Manatee priority focus area, and partially within the Western Water Supply Planning Area. It also does have adjacency to existing district lands ownership. We own the California Swamp Sea Conservation Easement, which you'll also see when we get to that specific map. Thirdly, we have the Green property, which I mentioned in Columbia County. It is within it is $721,000 or $1,600 for the district's match to the federal program I mentioned. It is within Itchtucknee Spring Shed. Has a number of acres within the 100-year floodplain, is within the Itchtucknee Priority Focus Area, the Eastern Water Supply Planning Area, and the Santa Fe BMAP. 2 additional properties or projects are recommended for further development. Again, this would be if the district were to find additional funding available, or if one of the other projects we could not reach terms, and we would pursue these in the order presented. It's the Hodges property in Levy County. Y'all approved this last year for funding. It was one of our ranked projects. They asked to remain on the list. So you can see that property there. The terms of those easements have already been negotiated with the landowner because those properties have been on the district's list for some time. And the 5th project we have is the Family Williams Investments property, also in Levy County, also known as Long Pond, just under 950 acres. And the terms of that easement have been discussed as well with the landowner. All right, let's move to the first ranked project, the Ippolito project. Tyler, if we can jump to that map. This is the map you see showing, this map specifically shows nearby or lack thereof district ownership. And in your packet, you should have also that you can see that the district owns some property just to the north of that, our Sunnyvale property. And I'll also note that there's a large CE to the west of the Ippolito property that is owned by DEP. It's the Lime Timber CE. All right, Tyler, next map. So that shows the river frontage. This shows the surface waters, which again, your table will provide the actual acreage for each of these values. Tyler, if you want to move on to floodplain, springs buffer, thank you. Fanning Manatee Spring Shed. This is the floodplain protection map. This is a new map that we have incorporated. This is a natural community, or I'm sorry, a land covers map, and we just use this as a reference tool. Here's the LiDAR of that area. And that concludes the maps for the Ippolito property. Tyler, if you want to move on, we'll move to the Bascom Southern Campbell Global map. This is the entirety of the easement area just off of 19 in Dixie County. You can see the district's ownership of a nearby adjacent conservation easement to the southeast, the California Swamp easement. We can move on to the surface water protection. It contains a large portion of surface water acreage. If we move on to the springs protection map, it is nearby but not inside any of our springs protection zones. This is the floodplain map. Your land cover map. And then finally, the LiDAR map. Now, given this property size, obviously, if we were to zoom down to this property at 400 and 500 acre sizes similar to the other properties, you would see a different variation of elevation. But at this elevation, given the property size, this is a good depiction. And for the third ranked project for funding, I want to note that the parcel you see, I'm sorry, the box that you see here, this is not an excluded area. This is just a remnant of GIS. So this is just a GIS technical error. So it is not excluded from the easement, but this is the easement footprint in Columbia County. You can see on the context map below, located right along I-75. This is this property does not have adjacency to current district lands. This is the surface water map. If we move on to the spring shed map, it is fully within the Ichetucknee spring shed. It also contains some floodplain protection. Again, land cover is represented on this map, although land practices on site may differ slightly. And then we have finally the LiDAR map you see here. And Mr. Chair, I'm willing to walk through, if you would like, the projects for further development, but since y'all have had those before you a number of times, I can hold on that and take questions, whatever the pleasure of the chair is.
What's the pleasure of the board, or the committee? I want to hear those details, or,
No, I think we can hold off on that.
okay, we'll hold off on that, Kate.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to entertain any and all questions regarding the ranking of these three projects for funding. Again, as a reminder, final purchase price and easement terms comes before the board before any execution, so y'all would have final approval of the final purchase price. What you're approving today is the ranking as it's presented, 1 through 3 for funding, and then 4 and 5 for further development. And allowing us to conduct detailed assessment. And then once y'all approve this at the Lands Committee, this will go to the board where we would ask for approval to also execute option agreements if needed. But again, final purchase always comes back to the full board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
before we go any further, I'm gonna make an announcement to the board. On the Green property, my homestead touches a small part of that boundary to the west side. Just to let the board know. I don't see it, talk to council, we don't see a conflict in it, but I just wanted the board members to know that. And then-
Are you a good kind of neighbor, or are you a bad neighbor?
No, we get it.
Okay, I'm just was wondering, you know.
I'm a good neighbor.
Every once in a while, sometimes they want the neighbors to move away and stuff. I just want to make sure.
I've heard that opinions vary, but we're a good
Okay,
neighbor.
all right, I just checking.
I've got a question for Kate.
Yes, sir.
On the Ippolito property, can you tell me the little sliver that's taken out, what is that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so are you referencing this sliver right here?
Yes.
So And again, we have not conducted full site visits of these. We would do that after the board gives their recommendation of ranking. But as we understand it, this is a separate landowner,
Okay.
not subject to the easement,
You said it's a separate landowner?
as we understand it.
Okay. Because it says on one of these maps that it's a wildlife corridor.
Yes, sir. So the Florida Wildlife Corridor is the designation that has been identified by the state and through the legislature. And there is a GIS layer that shows where that wildlife corridor is located. And part of our triage process, we evaluate if a property is located within the Florida Wildlife Corridor. That usually just assists when we're having conversations with other agencies about these properties. It's a data point. It's not a primary data point for y'all's decision-making because it's not part of the criteria for y'all's ranking, but it is an important one for the state, so we include it on our table.
Any other questions for Caitlin?
I've got
Yes, ma'am.
one. Caitlin, there also looks like outside the easement, there's a roadway or an access to some point or across the, kind of up on the top side. Is that outside of the easement? And is it access to a dwelling or what is that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, are you referencing this area right here?
Yes, ma'am.
So again, we will need to do further investigation should y'all allow us to conduct detailed assessment. But right now, our understanding is this is a remnant of how the parcels are laid out.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the airstrip or whatever that is in there?
It potentially could, but our understanding is mostly that it's to do with how the parcel data is drawn, because we're pulling this from parcel data, from GIS parcel data.
Okay. But you'll clarify that before we move forward, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Sessions?
I'm good.
Anybody else? So do you need a motion to approve? Is that what you're looking for?
Mr. Chair, I think a few of your public commenters, if you wanted to entertain them,
Yes.
this might be an item that they wanted to mention. And then, yes, sir, I'll need a motion and a second if y'all choose to support these projects.
Mr. Diamond?
Good afternoon. My name is Justice Diamond. I'm the Agricultural Conservation Specialist with Alachua Conservation Trust. Thank you all so much for this funding opportunity and considering the Green Project. So I've had the pleasure of working with the Green family for the past few years to protect their property with a conservation easement. And during that time, we've successfully applied for funding from the Natural Resource Conservation Service Agricultural Conservation Easement Program. So that program provides 50% of the funding for the conservation easement value. We've also successfully applied for funding for all the due diligence for this project. So ACT would be responsible for transacting, holding, and monitoring this conservation easement. And I'll say this property is really special. It's got over 160 acres of wetlands, really beautiful ponds. Orange Creek runs through the property, and it's entirely within the Ichetucknee Springs Priority Focus Area and Spring Shed. So again, thank you all for this opportunity. This is a opportunity for the district to partner with both ACT and the NRCS to protect this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Green?
Thank you. I do have some pictures I would love to, got two sets here. Easy for me to talk about it
Thank you.
because I grew up there. You can see the pictures as I kind of talk through it here. Let me get my set out here so I can walk through with you. So for the record, yes, I'm Jordan Green. I am the property owner along with my wife Bonnie. I will testify, Mr. Keith is a good neighbor. We do get along, so he spoke truthfully there. But like Justice said, I just want to, if I don't say anything else, thank you to the board, to the Lands Committee, to the staff for all the efforts that have gone into reviewing the application And I appreciate the funding opportunity, and hopefully that will all come to fruition. So just very briefly, the property, it's been in our family now for 5 generations. So my children are the 5th. Like Justice said, Orange Creek feeds Johns Pond and Orange Pond. Those were the 2 larger ones you could see on the map. And it kind of flows through the property there. Couple of other unnamed ponds also that come through. Comes in kind of through a wooded wetland area, complete with beavers, helping to control the ecosystem. Folders are sliding around here. So there's a picture in there of the beaver dam and some guy in there trying to figure out what to do to keep water flowing. Both ponds are surrounded by pasture, grazing areas and lightly wooded areas. And so that's why it's kind of a good marriage with the program through NRCS, with the grazing lands protection. You know, we're not a row crop agricultural type of function. We're a cow-calf operation and have been for 4 generations. Johns Pond flows into Orange Pond. There's a picture you can see where water, you know, when we were getting rain. So if we could buy rain somehow, I think that would be good. So it flows through a canal and pipe there to connect the 2. There's all sorts of wading birds, from the spoonbill to the wood stork, of course, egrets, herons, both great blues and whites, other kind of wildlife. You've got bald eagles, osprey, and then you got a kind of a bald fisherman there with the fish. The deer, the turkey, it's just a unique ecosystem, how it all kind of works together. And then also Sherman's fox squirrels are scattered around the property. Of course, anytime in this area you get into the cultural resources with Native Americans and the artifacts that you find there. So just kind of wrapping that up, again, we're a rotational grazing operation. We have 3 primary areas that we move our cattle around. We do seasonal mowing, seasonal dragging. So again, all with the idea of conservation and protecting the water quality of the ponds out there. So lastly, you know, you see some pictures of our cattle there. And, you know, it's a special place to us, a special place to my family. I feel like that I was kind of charged to be the steward of the property, and so that is what we're attempting to do. My grandfather's wish was to keep it intact as much as possible in its current use. And this funding opportunity certainly allows us to be able to do that and to protect it for the 5th generation, and that is my son out kayaking, so enjoying it. So again, just want to thank you for your time, for the opportunity, and I guess if you've got any questions, more details, we'll be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Mr. Green?
I've actually been on the property, so I know it well.
It's a nice track. I've seen it several times from the interstate riding through. It's beautiful, beautiful place.
Thank you.
So what's the pleasure of the committee?
I make that motion to proceed.
Okay,
I second it.
I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the matter? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Item number 4.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the committee, sorry. The next item for your consideration, I will be co-presenting with the infamous Warren Zwanka, but I will get us started. So we just talked about funding opportunities for what we call land acquisition conservation projects. So we're purchasing certain rights and certain terms to keep those areas in a state of conservation that satisfies the district's land acquisition goals and its district's core mission areas. So that is one bucket of funding. Now I want you to transition to a different land acquisition type with a slightly different goal, same parent goals, same district goals, but also a different funding bucket. So this item is for land acquisition associated with environmental projects, and this is to rank the projects you have listed before you, as well as authorize detailed assessment. So in the same way that we are authorized to acquire land for conservation purposes, as that we just talked about, we are allowed to acquire land for the purposes of projects. In April 2025, the district was awarded $3 million from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for acquisition of lands to support alternative water supply projects. The project areas listed below have been identified for acquisition to support water resource development projects. These projects will support the recovery of the lower Santa Fe and Ichetucknee rivers and springs, as well as flows on the Suwannee River. These locations were identified through analysis and feasibility studies by the Environmental Projects team. A thorough review of existing district lands was conducted prior to the identification of the projects listed below. For the water sources mentioned specifically below, no district lands have been identified to this point. These project areas were selected specifically for their proximity to the water source, suitability with concept designs, which you're going to hear from Warren about, access, which is very important, and benefit to the resource. The 4 areas that we are looking at and requesting the board to pursue detailed assessment is property in the Deep Creek area, property in the Cow Creek area. This is the same water source, but we have an extraction point and a drop-off point, so we're presenting those to you separately. And finally, property in the La Crosse area associated with extraction along Rocky Creek. And with that, I will welcome, Mr. Chair, if it pleases the committee, welcome Warren to the podium.
Thank you, Caitlin. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, good afternoon. No rules this time, just recharge. So I'm gonna try to do this without my reading glasses on and a little bit more comfortable. So let's get into it. A little bit more interesting on the land acquisition take here and what we're trying to do. So as you've heard my frustration in the past of trying to recharge in a discharge district, I have identified a number of properties to consider this afternoon. So let me make sure I get my, so what we're dealing with, again, a little recap, we're dealing with a district with 400 plus discharge points we call springs, and very little residence time of the groundwater that makes it into the system before it makes it to those springs. So I am looking for properties that will benefit largely the Ichetucknee Springs group. And what I'm finding is it's not as easy of a task as it sounds. A lot of my projects, as you'll see in a minute, do a lot of benefit to these springs in the upper Suwannee, which isn't a bad thing either, because that MFL is right behind the Ichetucknee Lower Santa Fe MFL. Let's go the right direction. So as a reminder, as a recap on my previous hydrology lessons, groundwater in our district originates largely in the Trail Ridge area, the Valdosta area, San Pedro Bay through Oxassa Flats, and it moves perpendicular to lines of equal potentiometric surface from there. And when we zoom into the 3 sites, I'll kind of give you a recap on the groundwater direction in that particular spot. But to have water come out of the Ichetucknee Springs Basin, you need to recharge back in this area. And it shows up on, when you model it too, it comes out with a sensitivity area. Same with recharging in that area, withdrawals in that area have the most effect on that springs group. So I'm looking back in the basin as far as I can go to get the water in the ground for a long residence time, to offset water uses, and to benefit the springs. And as I've mentioned before, my projects have largely been reduced to 3 types: drainage wells, rapid infiltration basins, also known as RIBs, and use of existing karst features on the landscape for recharge. Two of the 3 concepts already have been proven. The drainage wells, we know work in Live Oak and elsewhere, Orlando. A lot of the pictures I have here are in the Orlando area. Rapid infiltration basins are in the Orlando area as well. But the one that's kind of a wild card is the use of karst features, but none of the land acquisitions that I'm bringing to you specifically rely on that, although one of them would definitely be helpful. So with that, so it looks like, for the last year and a half, I've been scouring the landscape, looking for concepts where I can use excess water sources for this recharge through these three concepts. And I've come up with about a baker's dozen of projects that will move the needle a little bit. None of them are huge. Probably the biggest one is going to be the Deep Creek project that I'll get into in a second. There are some karst features that have been identified in the Alusty Basin that are not on district property, but that we would either access through kind of a temporary access easement. The other one is of interest by the landowner to turn into a project, which is fine by me. Anything we can do to recharge is fine. Of the number of projects that you see up here, only a few require actual land acquisition if we're going to go to that route. And so those are the three I'm going to talk about. First is the Deep Creek. This is the one that's probably the biggest needle mover as far as getting water in the ground for beneficial purposes. This is the Deep Creek area is in northern Columbia County, where the concept would be that you would withdraw excess water from the creek during these flood events that we have. You would treat it because it has to meet drinking water standards because there's no existing drainage wells in that area. And you would get it in the ground as quickly as you can. Generally, we would try to do a gravity drain as much as we could too without a whole lot of pumps, but it's not very possible in these flat floodplains. But as you can see, even with an 8 MGD project, looking at Ichetuckney's benefit, it's only about 250,000 gallons that makes it there. This is a huge Upper Swanee project, but it does help out Ichetuckney pretty well too. It mirrors, the project itself mirrors, and I'll show you this in the concept drawing, the Little Swanee Creek Creek project that we have started already, where we're looking at available water, but that one's on our property, which is pretty fortunate. But this is a little bit better of a spot because the groundwater by this time is moving to the west-southwest, and is basically missing the Ichetuckney, whereas if you can get it in here, a little bit of it does make it to the Ichetuckney. So just a general map of Deep Creek, and it's taking water out of the Osceola National Forest, nice pristine water. So pretty much the only thing you'll have to treat for in this case is going to be bacteria. All surface water has bacteria in it. So it's relatively easy to treat if you can get rid of the color and a lot of the tannins from the water, and there's some passive treatment systems out there that can do that. Now, one thing you'll notice on this map is there's already a lot of district property within that basin, and I get that. And I've looked at our properties up and down the Swanee River in this part. This is the confined part of northern Columbia County, so that's an ideal place to get water in the ground. Turns out, though, that the properties we own are largely within the floodplain. And in fact, the one right across the river, this is the Swanee River moving through here, has one part that's like 6 acres and one part that's like 20 acres. And when you're trying to treat 8 million gallons of water a day, the treatment system that can do that cannot be put on a 20-acre piece. Not to mention, the wells that you're putting this water into have to be spaced as well so they don't interfere with each other, because instead of having a cone of depression, now you have a mounding of groundwater because you're trying to get water in the ground. And it happens at the RIB sites in Orlando. I know that it shows up on the potentiometric surface. So that's why I'm asking for the ability, I'll get these, trying to go back. Tyler, can you hit the back arrow? Oh, we lost our Tyler. That's why it won't work. It's locked up. Where's Tyler? Tyler, it's locked up. Sorry, could you hit the back arrow? Tyler knows. He's like, he keeps an open help ticket for me. Sure, we can do that one. I'll just go right into the concept, but yeah, we can do it from there. That's good. So we're looking in general along the floodplain of Deep Creek. I think it's locking up again. Yeah. To reach out to landowners to see if they have a parcel that they would potentially offer to the district. We are quickly getting to a point where we've identified water sources, water sources with excess water. We know we have a proven way of getting it in the ground with treatment and everything else. And until we know where the actual project is going to happen, you really can't go forward with the design. And that's what's happening here. The area has been studied. We're going to give it a more detailed study. We know we could get it in the ground with treatment, and now we just need to know where that would happen. So I mentioned that it largely resembles the Little Swanee Creek project, which is north of Deep Creek, but it's a smaller project. It's probably a 2 to 4 MGD project at best. It's a flashy system, but it can go down to nothing there, and you're not taking water when there's nothing moving through the system. But this is on district property, and the setup would be very similar, where this is 300 acres, and you'd have monitoring wells on the zone of influence on the perimeter, and you'd have a treatment system, water being withdrawn from the creek and being fed into drainage wells or injected into drainage wells. You might have to do the injection there. Well, before I move on, any questions about that concept? I'll cover the other two real quick. So the next is Cow Creek. This one's kind of interesting because it would require both a purchase of an extraction point and a point for the rapid infiltration basins. But here we have a system that's being studied currently that I think the actual available take, the final available take for the Cow Creek system, which is in the Waukesasa Flats area of northern Gilchrist County. The system itself flows into the lower Santa Fe River, but past where most of the springs are. The idea there is to take excess flood water from the creek, and in this case, it would have to go through a pipeline system to rapid infiltration basins. I like the idea because you're taking, you're using the landscape, which has already been given to us, where you have a swampy area with a available water source adjacent to these really excessively well-drained soils right next door that make suitable soils for rapid infiltration basins. So the setup is really good. The availability of water on Cow Creek isn't spectacular. And if you look at the project right now, we're thinking it's going to be about a 2 MGD take, and you might as well write off Ichetucknee. It's on the other side of the Santa Fe River, so it's got a hydrologic divide there. So most of the benefit goes to the Fort White gauge and the 441 gauge, but it's not a very impressive benefit. What I would hope with this would be if you can pull off the extraction and the construction of rapid infiltration basins, which would look like that. There's a picture of the ones in Central Florida, that it would attract utilities looking for a drop-off point for treated wastewater. That's what RIBs are designed to handle, is the purple pipes discharging to the rapid infiltration basins. They're not really designed to take surface water, but we have the natural setup right there in Gilchrist County for it. So this would be looking in the landscape for properties where you could, and it wouldn't take that much property to get 2 MGD of water in the ground in a rapid infiltration basin in eastern Gilchrist County wouldn't take probably 20 to 30 acres. But I would like to upsize it a little bit so that you can attract a little bit more recharge when that area grows and you have water treatment plants producing reclaimed water. But here you have groundwater moving from Trail Ridge and hitting the water that's coming out of Waukesasa Flats, and it joins in this area we call the High Springs Gap, and in this area it flows north and feeds the springs in the lower Santa Fe. So anything you can get back here in the southern part of that basin where you can get water in the ground there, it resides longer and it feeds the springs. And then the last one is the La Crosse project. This one, I haven't had a lot of input in. This was largely done when I came into the projects team, but it's taking excess water, this time from Rocky Creek in northern Alachua County, and putting it in would be a closed basin. We love our closed basins in this district. Hopefully the closed basin has some kind of karst feature or very close to being a karst feature, a relic karst feature that could allow for rapid recharge, because there's a lot of clay underlying northern Alachua County. It's not a big needle mover, 1.43 MGD of excess water that can be taken off and recharged. And it's in a pretty expensive area too, in northern Alachua County. But again, if Deep Creek doesn't work out, that would be our first shot. Then we would move on to Cow Creek and looking for opportunities there, and then La Crosse. But this is northern Alachua County. Groundwater is moving from Trail Ridge westward to the lower Santa Fe. Rocky Creek goes north through northern Alachua County and feeds into the upper Santa Fe River. And the concept would be you find an adjacent closed basin, hopefully with some maybe relic karst features, have that water either gravity drain over to it or pump it over to that closed basin, let it sit there and feed in, because you've now put extra water in that basin, and it feeds in and recharges after the floodwaters recede. So with that, I'll take any questions. I think Caitlin still needs to come up for the recommendation.
Any questions from the committee?
Yeah, one.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So, like the Deep Creek project, obviously it's hands down, more water. It depends on finding available land that somebody wants to sell or.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Keith, absolutely. We do not own any property along Deep Creek, and I dealt with the feds back when I was trying to put wells in Osceola years ago, and it's incredibly difficult. Plus, by the time you are that far back into the forest, you don't have much of a creek to take from. So it's let me find the map I'm thinking of. Oops, way too far. Yeah, so, there's a sweet spot here where you're trying to stay out of the floodplain. If you're not so far back that you don't have a creek, you don't have a really well-defined creek to withdraw from, and so it would be something in between. Luckily, Deep Creek has a pretty narrow floodplain, so you can get pretty close to it without and you can build treatment systems and whatever you need to do without being in a floodplain.
It looked like that area, you're talking approximately 50 acres, would be the smallest piece of property we're looking to purchase.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, sir, that's an accurate assessment. Most of them start around 40 and they go, there's a couple 150-acre parcels and whatnot. I mean, with trying to get 8 MGD in the ground would require wells situated pretty far apart. You'd want to get them as far apart as possible. Northern Columbia County is not known for a high transmissivity, so the water probably would mound up a little bit if you got them right on top of each other.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the, just out of curiosity, I know, have we investigated the cost of either, or the simplicity of either treatment or maintaining whatever operation, if you have a lot of treatment costs or in one of it, or if you can use the karst thing, there's probably not so much. Have we looked at that? I mean, I know we're pretty much into the front, but are we looking at the longevity of maintenance, the cost, and what that would be for each gallon we have to treat and put in the ground? Is this one going to be more expensive, and or we could do 2 over here that are a little simpler and don't need as much maintenance? Is that all part of our calculation when we look at these sites?
Sure. That's a great question. Of the components that you mentioned, I would say the ongoing O&M is one we have not touched base with any consultants on. We have consultants working on available takes in 2 systems and some preliminary designs on the Cow Creek system. And, well, the available take was already done on the La Crosse, and the concept there is largely known. I think the big unknown is the ongoing O&M. Whether or not it's going to be worth it, I think is one of those things where we'll come back to you with, this is what the dollar amount is. Even a simple drainage well replacement that I started work on in the Bradford County area is turning out to be, just for the design work, is to the point where we're saying it's not feasible, we're not ready to continue with that. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these drop off just due to financial infeasibility. I just feel like, it's not in this district's best interest to wait around while the big utility project gets put into place when we have available water and a water resource we can take full advantage of. So I think it'll end up being 1 or 2 very high quality recharge projects that we'll have to focus on.
Warren, have you considered, instead of fee purchasing the land, maybe approaching a landowner that might have a dual purpose on their property already, and maybe considering a long-term lease with that landowner to set your project up? Have you considered that? Because that's a big chunk of the project cost is buying land.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the rest of the remaining of projects that I had put up on that map are either going to be that kind of agreement or they're district owned, and only 2 are state lands. Only 2 of the 13 were state lands. So the rest we had already conceptualized as short-term access agreements. We go in, we clean a sinkhole, we go in, we wouldn't set up infrastructure like a rapid infiltration basin or drainage well without owning it. I don't think we would, any owner would want that to happen on their property without turning the property over to the district. But all the rest of them we've looked at as get in, do the work, improve the recharge, and then leave the landowner alone.
Well, I want to encourage you a little bit. I've had some dealings with landowners that are kind of similar to Mr. Green right there. They're looking for opportunities to enhance the environment and not just do it from the wildlife standpoint, but also enhance the ecological value of their properties. And it's just there's a movement out there of private people that want to have a longer lasting legacy than just buying and selling a tract of timber or managing it for timber or whatever. They really are, their interest is very piqued. When I mention some of these projects, ideas, conceptual ideas to landowners, some people are very interested in that today. I'm just saying that there's a new generation of property buyers and owners, where, like up on that Deep Creek tract, there's a big portion of that northern part that's privately owned that goes right up to the edge of the river, that actually that has river frontage on it, which is a very unique parcel because most of that ground up there is owned by the states or the state or the feds. And so a lot of times when you have a landowner that has that unique of a piece of property, they think outside the box a little bit. So I want to make sure that you, even the idea of having a rapid infiltration system or slow basin or whatever you're trying to do there, I think you need to take another stab at potential partners, because I think there's a shift going on in the mindsets of the new generation of long-term landowners that are buying property, that are heavily investing in it, that may be able to take that burden away from us, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's a correct observation. For all 3 of these sites have, within the basin, within the proximity to the water sources, have conservation land. And one of the things we have talked about doing is reaching out to them about amending, I guess it is, the conservation components of their easements. But, you know, just in case that doesn't work out, the
Right.
request is to also
Yeah.
approach.
Well, I'm just saying that I would strongly encourage you to think outside the box.
Okay.
Okay, because I know traditionally we would say, well, if we want a wetlands recharge project, we need to own the land. And that, I'm just saying that there is a cultural shift out there today, that there is some, different thinking landowners today out there that may help us, instead of doing one project because we own the land and have all the expense of treating the water, we may be able to have two projects. And maybe, I'm not saying double the amount of water we can put in there, but let's say that we're on the north end of that circle and the south end of that circle. And we're able to get more bang for our buck, is what I'm trying to say. I just want to strongly encourage you and your team to think. I'm not saying no today, I'm not saying don't do this today, I'm not against the approach, but there may be a more advantageous approach out there with a shifting culture and what we're dealing with. I just say it.
Noted.
Okay.
We'll make it a priority.
Yes, sir. What's the pleasure of the committee? Any other questions? Caitlin, you want to read the recommendation?
I would strongly agree with what you said, though. I think there is a shift.
I think there
People
is.
want to preserve the properties.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, from the land acquisition standpoint, we heard your comments. We will make sure that we consider all those avenues from an innovative standpoint. We'll consider O&M and control and work with Warren's team as we pursue those together. I will note that acquisition of these properties, for the record, these would be considered project lands, not conservation lands. And that's a very important distinction relative to the statute and to our Constitution. So these are project lands, not conservation lands.
And I think on the, going back to those definitions of going into those landowners that may have conservation easements already and explaining to them, and that would maybe bring more value to their conservation easement. Just thinking there on that.
Yes, sir. With that, Mr. Chair, staff requests that the Lands Committee authorize detailed assessment for land acquisition to support water resource development projects using alternative water supply funding for the projects listed in the ranking listed.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
I'll make that motion. Proceed.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the matter? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Warren. Appreciate all your hard work, brother. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. All right, moving on to our next item. This is the conveyance of 203rd Road and boat ramp within the district's Peacock Slough and Telford Spring Track in Suwannee County. I'll mention we have Alden Rosner with us with Suwannee County if we have any questions specific to the county's involvement. In the early 2000s, and then as recently as a couple years ago, the district has been acquiring property on its Peacock Slough track and Telford Springs track. And thank you, Tyler. And through those acquisitions, the most recent of which, looking at survey information and working with the county, we found that the district owns the road known as 203rd Road. You've seen shown in purple. And we own the boat ramp at the end. Suwannee County has historically maintained that road and has continued to maintain that road, which we are very grateful that that road stays open to the public 24/7, and the boat ramp is also open. To support the county's ongoing maintenance of the road and the boat ramp, staff recommend conveying the road and boat ramp to Suwannee County. Suwannee County has committed to keeping the road open to the public, and the district will maintain an access easement over the property. The district will incur all costs associated with the conveyance. And I'll also mention that the conveyance, we had a conversation with the county on Friday, would likely include the boat ramp parking lot, which is a very small parking lot on the road as well. The conveyance is consistent with 373-056 Florida statutes, which authorizes transfers of district land to other public agencies where it is found to be in the public's interest. And this certainly is found to be in the public's interest in staff's opinion. And with that, we will request the Lands Committee authorize the conveyance.
Questions for Caitlin? I have one.
Yes, sir.
There was one time that we had an audit, and maybe it's just because I've been around a long time. I don't know. I hate to be the guy that's been around a long time, right? I know, I'm not that old, okay? But the deal is, there was some property bought with Florida Forever funds, and it got transferred over, and this, that, and the other, and all that so we're not gonna have any problems with that if we do this action, is that right?
Mr. Chair, there'll be no exchange of funds with this conveyance.
Okay, so, but what I'm saying is in the spirit of Florida Forever funds and everything else, none of that's being violated, and y'all have checked into that, everything's good?
Mr. Chair, so for the portion of the road that was purchased through the Springs Funding Project, which is a portion of the boat ramp portion, we've already reached out to DEP and gotten their blessing to convey it, and we will further reach out to them to ensure that they are comfortable with the road conveyance as well. So as far as we understand it, there's no issue, but all of that, our very illustrious legal counsel will make sure that we stay.
I hate
in
to
the
be that
lanes.
guy, I just didn't want to get dinged in an audit, because them dang vultures are coming, they looking. All right, any other questions?
Give them a quick lane.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
Motion to proceed with conveyance to Swanee County.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Oh, any other discussion on the matter? You sure? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
I'm holding.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. All right, you go for it.
All right, thank you, committee. We have 2 items left for your consideration on our agenda. The next item is
We
the
only have an hour. I hope you hurry up and get through this. I know that you got to go, go get your kids. Got it?
We are requesting that the Lands Committee declare a surplus 4 parcels within the district's Nature Coast Tract, consisting of just over 4 acres located in Gilchrist County. And I'll make a note to the board, your memorandum lists that these were purchased in 2002 with Florida Forever funds. As a clerical error, these were purchased on March 15th, 1995, using Save Our Rivers funds. So, Mr. Chair, that takes care of your concerns specific to Florida Forever funds. And just a little fun fact, these were purchased for $2,300 per lot at the time. The district has reviewed these parcels in accordance with its procedures, including a site visit that was conducted by staff. These came on, obviously the district owned these. They're not being actively managed due to their proximity to residential neighborhoods and their small size and the natural community. The district received a request for surplus and purchased for 2 of the lots, which we would bring to you in a future meeting. Upon evaluation of that request, staff evaluated the 4 you see here for surplus, and will likely come back around and list potentially other additional lots in this area for surplus. The 4 lots the district is requesting that the board surplus are Lot 16, Lot 17, Lot 1, and Lot 18. Current district procedure requires that an appraisal be provided upon offer to purchase non-declared surplus. Staff requests the board approve the surplus without an appraisal and authorize district to pursue discussions with the landowner should you surplus. The appraisal would be conducted as part of the contract for sale, and just as a reminder, surplus costs are absorbed by the buyer. In accordance with the procedure, as I mentioned, staff conducted a site visit, and based on the date of the acquisition, a 2/3 vote is required by the governing board to surplus these. So once this is reviewed by the Lands Committee, should you choose to approve it, it would go before the full board. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions?
I have one, I think. These lots, when we bought them in 95,
Yes, sir.
was for river protection?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
These lots, Mr. Keith, were purchased as part of the district's small parcel roundup program. So we purchased, the number of lots is hard to determine. It was over 250 lots during a very specific time period as part of that program in the 90s to early 2000s. And so largely those lots were identified by willing sellers and proximity to the river, but it was proximity and willing sellers at the time. So they were doing the district was doing bundle closings, many, many closings at one time during that time period.
So these lots here, if we surplus them, it's not gonna have that much of a negative impact?
Mr. Chair. So these lots are not currently being managed through our land management program, given the proximity to the residential community. So there's houses, you can see them somewhat on the aerial, but this is in a residential neighborhood. And our belief is that the surplus would not impact the resource. So we typically surplus with deed restrictions, which we would take before the board for approval.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, will they be sold as fee simple, or you plan to restrict them in any?
Mr. Chair, we would sell, again, given the pleasure of the board, when this item comes before the full board, we have historically brought these river lots for fee simple sale, but with deed restrictions.
Any other questions? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Make a motion.
Okay, we got a motion.
Second.
I got a second. Any other discussion on the matter? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right, number 7.
All right. The final item for the Lands Committee's consideration today is the removal of the Hatch Bend Uplands tract in Lafayette County from surplus. So in 2015, the district purchased 90 acres known as the Turtle Springs tract, and as part of the acquisition, the resolution declared 32.2 acres as surplus, and that declared surplus is this Hatch Bend Uplands outlined in white, as well as this purple parcel this small lot in purple. This is a local boat ramp, and we are not suggesting to remove this from surplus. We want to keep this boat ramp on surplus as it is and seek conveyance potentially to the county because it's used by the locals in the area. But we are requesting that this Hatch Bend Uplands tract be removed for surplus for a number of reasons. The primary of which is that it is part of a larger contiguous tract. It would not be a management burden to the district to manage. We would achieve some timber revenue from that parcel, and that we could, given that it is, adjacent to the existing tract, it is larger in size and can provide some timber revenue, we would not identify this in 2025 as a potential surplus. So if we were, as we're evaluating surplus properties in the district's land acquisition and surplus program, this would not be one that we would typically identify for the reasons that I just mentioned. So with that, and given that it's been on the list for a decade, staff requests that the governing board remove the Hatch Bend Uplands tract from the district's surplus list as staff continue to identify river lots and other small parcels less than 10 acres that would not be consistent with the district's land ownership mission for surplus consideration.
Any questions for Caitlin? What's the pleasure of the committee?
I make that motion to remove it from the surplus list.
Okay. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion on the matter? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. There you go.
Mr. Chair, that concludes our items for the September 22nd Lands Committee.
You have any announcements?
All of the items that you mentioned today will go to the full board for consideration in October. We'll also have a number of other land acquisition items for your consideration at that meeting as well.
Any other comments from the committee at this time? In that case, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. 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 Okay, we're gonna meet back in here. Chair Johns will take over the reins at hard 5:05. So I expect everybody to be here, except for Mr. Green, you're more than welcome to be excused. And Kaylin, you're excused too with a written note. I've got that note already, so I hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you very much for attending our meeting. Thank you.
And let's be here a little bit before 5:05.
Yeah, let's say 5
okay?
o'clock.
5:03 then, okay, thank you.